let me just kind of walk you through our expansion. What I prepared is 5 lessons on kind of like how we went about expansion and mistakes we've made, and maybe there's something you guys can take away from that. All the photos you guys see are from our amazing clients all over the world. So we start with the Philippines, dedicated to Joanne. And then just to give you a bit of a context, what we do as Profitroom, because it's gonna kind of give you a bit of a context on how we go about the expansion. I wanna kind of, for you guys to imagine that you guys wanna buy or go for holidays. And typically how people go about that is what you do. You either go to a tour operator and ask them, okay, I want to go to South Africa, please find me holidays. Or you go to booking.com or Expedia and you start searching for hotels. Or you put in Google best hotels in South Africa. Either way, you finally find the hotel you want to go to, let's say it's this one. And then you kind of find like the best price or the best package for you. And at some point in this journey, you end up on a hotel website and you go book now. And that's where Profitroom comes into place, because we are the technology behind this book now button. So we give the tech for the guests to make a reservation, but also the entire backend for the hotels to manage the distribution. And just a couple of other words about Profitroom. It's a SaaS company. We've been on the market for 16 years. We have 300 people on board. We are founded in Poland, but we now operate in around 50 markets. And we are in this kind of difficult B2B2C industry where we have to deal not only with the hotels as our customers, but also their guests as their customers. Now, so without further ado, let me take you to the 5 lessons. So the first one is around selecting the market. And this is, I think, the most difficult lesson for us, because we were really clueless on how to go about that. It took us some data and some intuition and some kind of guessing on where we should set our teams. So fantastic, Aaron, that you have this amazing framework right now. But what I see when I work with different companies is that very often people get very set on the biggest market, on the biggest total addressable market. And when it comes to us, for example, I mean, in Europe, there's so many countries to choose from now. So it's natural for a company like ours to choose a market that has the biggest amount of hotels. So when you search for that, France is, for example, at the top. But it's not so straightforward, as you guys know. So for example, for us, France would not be a good choice just because there is a very strong local competitor that owns practically the entire market. There's, French people like to buy from French people, and there's a lot of localization of the product that would be required. So what we did is we actually went a few hundred kilometers down south, and we chose Spain because over there the market is very decentralized and it's much easier to kind of wedge your way in. And also just kind of customizing our product for Spain would allow us then later on to go to Latin America, which we eventually did. And another thing that I think it's quite important here is that looking at the market is not always equal to the country. So especially in Europe, that's quite important, because holy grail in Europe is Germany. No, everybody wants to make it there, and we look at it as DACH region, so Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. And just because they all speak German, we kind of tend to treat them in the same way, in a way. And we made that mistake that we were trying really hard to expand into DACH, and quite frankly, we're treating all the hotels in that region with the same kind of measurement. And only after a couple of years, like, we really realized this was a huge mistake, because the needs of those hotels and resorts in Austria or Switzerland were totally different than the ones in Germany. So just kind of like right now, it's very important for us to understand not only the country itself, but also even the regions within the country, because they can have very different requirements in terms of our product. Another thing here is that, we've been expanding very quickly to many different countries, and we were trying to kind of stick to our strategy. Okay, now we're going for this one, now we're going for this one. But sometimes opportunities come along, and that kind of like gave us a very nice framework of going into new regions. So we had this amazing opportunity to actually go to Africa, and it was never on our roadmap. It was completely opportunistic, but we managed to sign a very, very big customer over there. And then because of that, we signed quite a few different ones. And that was kind of the perfect entry strategy. I think that we try to repeat everywhere we go right now, is that getting the lighthouse customers, and then only then kind of building the go-to-market teams that can expand that region. No, because traditionally we would actually hire people and just kind of make them, okay, go and try to get us customers, whereas this was much lighter way to go about entering the market. And the last one around here is around decision-making process as well, but that I think a lot of startups forget about that, you know, just because you work with a particular decision maker, and that was a mistake we made as well, we traditionally sell to the CEOs, GMs, owners of the hotels. And that kind of goes with a particular marketing message now. So very often we would talk about revenue and bottom line and kind of expanding your business, etc. In one of the regions we wanted to go to, actually, that was not the decision maker, no, it was the IT director. And no matter how much money we spent on marketing, it wasn't landing. And you know, after a while, we kind of realized, okay, well, we actually going about it in a totally different way, because these guys are caring about security, support, you know, integrations, etc. And only once we clicked that, okay, this is the way, it totally changed kind of the entire dynamic of going into the market. So I'll move on. I'll go to the niche. So this is like, I guess, the highlight of every business book there is, that you really have to define your ICP. So it's a no-brainer. But for us, what they don't tell you in those books, I feel, is like how to actually implement it within the company. So we started our expansion, I guess, 5 years ago, exactly. And just a few months into it, COVID hit. And for the travel industry, obviously, everything stopped, no? So we had a little bit more time on our hands than we wanted to. But actually, that allowed us to really look into our client base and analyze them, and very quickly realize that, you know, 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our clients. So we really had a hard look on what kind of attributes they have, what kind of problems we're solving for them, and had this perfect definition of the ideal client profile. And then the fun began, because we actually had to trickle it down to the company. And this was a very, I guess, exciting process, because the way we went about that, and I think this is a good lesson maybe for many companies, is that we organized a lot of workshops for different parts of the company, where they had to come up with lists of target accounts and explain to the entire company why they think this is the ideal client profile. We found ways to incentivize different stakeholders, so maybe sales, pre-sales, etc., for every sale that was done for the ideal client profile. We did a lot of work with the CRM and kind of highlighting anytime someone signed this particular hotel. And I have to say that after a few months of working like that, I think everyone in the company knows like who we're going after. And it's very much easier for us right now to actually bring them back to this client profile. So if anytime someone new enters the company, or if we get distracted and we kind of, okay, this is shiny, let's go there, we can easily bring them here and be like, no, we focus on this. So I think there's a lot of work many companies have to do, because just having it on the paper in the strategies is not enough. And the same goes to markets. We were kind of victims of our own success, because when we hired good salespeople, they started bringing deals from all over the place, and they were like, and this is awesome, and this, and the Nordics, and Amsterdam, and Turkey, let's just do it all. And we ended up kind of like being like on two different legs. So the go-to-market was like running, but then operations and the products, they were just warming up, you know, and we couldn't sustain it. It was really difficult for us to kind of create that cohesive movement. So again, back to being laser focused, we selected the strategic markets where we actually want to go deep, where we want to go after market share. And then we actually just everything else put on as opportunistic sales, and double down on partners, because obviously you have investors in the back. You do want to maintain the growth, you know, and if you just kind of go about 1-2 markets at a time, you may not have a growth rate you need for like the kind of tempo you want to have. So we did go outside of the box and started thinking about partnerships. And as we were growing, there was a lot of people approaching us. Oh my God, your product is so great. I want to resell it, etc. And we started kind of like signing so many partnerships and resellers all over the world, hoping that it's going to work out. And obviously it didn't work out because what happened is that everybody was excited for a month, then they realized how difficult it is, and then it all dropped, no? So we kind of had to take a step back with that as well and think, okay, how can we overcome that? And right now what we're doing, because we actually have like a due diligence process for resellers. So we actually take them through like business case building or target list building, or we have to create a business plan together before we even sign the contract. And this way we actually see how committed they are. And it's like a very nice way for us to see if they actually put the time and effort into this before they commit to being a reseller. Because it sounds like it's an easy thing to do, or you have a reseller and he does all the job, but it actually takes a lot of enablement and company effort to bring them up to speed. And you don't want to waste that time because, you know, it's valuable. And then another way, also from a different company I worked at, the way we looked at the resellers and kind of partners like that is they helped us go to market. So we would say, this is a strategic market for us, but I really want to learn about it quickly. So let's find a partner for like 6 months, and it was like limited time offer, where they would let us use their offices, they would introduce us to other people, they open the doors for us, they help us hire, they taught us everything about the market. And after 6 months, when we had all that knowledge, only then we would hire go-to-market people in that particular region. So it was really a nice shortcut, because what we learned in a couple of months from them, we would be learning for a year or two if we were on our own. And another way also in terms of partnerships is we really started to build a lot of partnerships with complementary solutions that work with the same market as we do. And it sounds great on the paper because, you know, you have a partnership manager on one company, partnership manager on the other company, they sign an agreement and hope everything's going to be great. But it actually doesn't work that way, because usually it's just a paper. So we actually, what we're trying to do is trickle it down and put go-to-market people together. So, I mean, there's many ways to do it. You put them together in a room, you ask them to brainstorm like what they can do together, you ask them to organize an event together. Maybe they can, I don't know, just go and have dinner, and like kind of, you need to bring the people on the market together in order for that to work. And we have some fantastic results with that, where we built like almost a community of complementary solutions, and all those people working together, sharing leads, sharing experience, talking about the product, etc. And the last example maybe I can give is around just being creative, because sometimes things that are not obvious work. And as Aaron mentioned, I spent some time in the Philippines. My job at the time was to I landed there, and I was supposed to talk to 200 CEOs from the market to talk about the kind of the industries they at. And I knew absolutely no one, just my colleague. So we were kind of trying to find a way on how can we make it successful very quickly. And obviously the only person we knew in the field, not we knew, but we knew of, was Manny Pacquiao, who's the boxer. So what we actually did, we, you know, not knowing anyone, we went in front of his office because he was a congressman at the time. We were waiting like 6 or 7 hours in front of his office. And then when he went out, we were kind of running after him and asking for a meeting. And then he gave us a meeting. He took a photo with us. He ended up signing like a letter recommending us. And then that opened so many doors for us in the in the Philippines, that we very quickly could meet so many people. And it's so not obvious, because obviously he had nothing to do with our industry. He was just a, you know, famous person. But just kind of sometimes when you go to different countries, thinking of those not obvious solutions can really, really help. The fourth lesson I have is around the product. This was a big one for us because, you know, I feel like sales can really misfire the product in the wrong direction. Because if you have amazing salespeople, they do a great job selling externally, but they also sell internally, no? So they actually will come to you and they're going to say, man, you can win this deal if we do this and this and this in the product. And out of the sudden, you have 5 different markets telling you the same thing. And then you stretch the roadmap in so many different directions that is actually like I don't want to say useless, but it's really not going anywhere, no? So it's kind of like very scattered. And it was a big one for us, because obviously we did want to close deals, but at the same time, we wanted to have a proper vision of the product. And this goes hand in hand with kind of verifying product market fit before you enter, because very often we think we have it when we don't. In some of the markets, for example, we are successful in market A, B, C, and then we entering another market and they tell, okay, guys, but this is actually not so exciting. Like this product is not as cool as you think it is, And then you have to kind of take a step back and think about that. Is this really the product? Is it the wrong messaging? Are we highlighting the wrong things? And for us, it was the big learning curve on how to manage all of that, all those expectations of the market, the salespeople, but also the vision of the product to be successful, no? So I think we're still kind of finding our way around that, especially that we are in this B2B2C business. So our product managers really have to look at so many different lenses, through so many different lenses, because they do look at the B2B part, then the B2C part with the guest, then the different territories, different languages, different cultures, and then also on top of that, different client segments, because like small and medium and then enterprise clients. So I guess I don't have like a very good way on how to handle that, apart from the fact that we actually try to create champions within the product managers that really excel at a particular region, and then they can spread the knowledge within the entire team in order for them to kind of be a little bit more kind of acquainted with everything that's happening, and then I want to talk a little bit more about building teams as well. For us, it was always very important that we have very agile teams that act very fast. And the way we look at that is we don't want to be this big corporation, because we don't want to lose that kind of startup mentality. So we give our local teams a lot of freedom, a lot of space to experiment, to adjust, and kind of to create this matrix structure where we have, the departments, and then on top of that, we have the markets, and it has to kind of cross somehow and work. Once the market is becoming very big, then we could like maybe bring it back to the mothership a little bit more. But as we expand into new markets, we always try to build it as startups. And there's a couple of other snippets here I just want to mention that were quite useful for us. For a long time, I was, for example, very resistant to hire customers. But actually, after a while, we said, okay, why not? Let's try it. And it's been a very, very good experience, because not only do they use your product, they also want to work for you. So it's a perfect combination. They can be very, very good ambassadors because they know the product and they actually can promote it very quickly within their network. Another kind of thing is around, especially, I guess, European companies. Maybe for the US, it's a bit different. But in Europe, very often, we build companies just for the particular market at the very beginning. Now, so for example, Profitroom was built for the Polish market. It achieved very huge success there. Only when they hit that, that market cap, they wanted to go abroad. But when we started building the teams for international expansion, we created this kind of environment, us versus them, us Polish versus them international, the other way around. And for the very long time, we could not bring it together. We actually built like separate customer success departments and separate onboarding and separate, marketing, etc. And only after a few years, we were able to actually join them for that synergy effect. And that change management was very, very difficult. So I think this is something that's very often overlooked. But even for us, switching to English, when we hired our first people, all the kind of knowledge bases and product info was in Polish, just taking that, just kind of switching all of that took us a lot of time and a lot of effort that we could have said, if we have done English from the very beginning, no? And this brings us also to a little bit of a kind of HR topic, because we are a fully remote company and we really want to try and hire people based on, their talent. So no matter where you are in the world, you can work for us, even if we're not in that country. But out of the sudden, we had many teams that, were, say, in the US and then in France and then in Poland, all doing the same job, but making different money, because it's based on a lot of the countries. So encourage everyone to be very careful about that, because you really have to have like a good algorithm and explanation to the teams how you guys go about that, how you guys go about benefits, etc., because you cannot have the same benefits all over the place. And that's, I think, it's something that is often overlooked because it seems very small, but it creates a lot of kind of friction within the teams. And the last one I have here is around hiring more than one person for each market. So the tendency is that, okay, well, we want to try this market. Let's hire one guy and see where he gets, because budgets are usually tight and you don't want to overspend. But in my experience, you need at least 2 or 3 people there, because they need to really feed off each other. They need to have that energy. So I think this is the mistake we sometimes made, where we would just, put one guy and hope for the best. Whereas if you actually pair them up in a particular way, they can be much more creative and bring a lot more results for that. And I guess also just kind of exchanging the ideas between the teams, because that kind of segmentation into smaller companies and markets creates a bit of a problem in terms of communication and knowledge exchange between the markets, no? And just recently, we actually had like a big get together of the entire company, and we had like a sales team sitting together at this one big table and exchanging ideas. And just as an anecdote, maybe I'll say that we had our African team that's, very outgoing, and they were saying, okay, guys, like, even if you lose a deal, remember, you have to, engage with them, invite them to webinars, send them some updates, and, just make sure you keep in touch, and etc. And then on the other side of the table, there was our Nordics team, and they were like, hey, whoa, listen, I tried that, I was sending them everything. And at some point, this lady came to me and said, stop it. What don't you understand? I don't want to work with you. Stop contacting me. So, sometimes you're trying to really bring the best practices and kind of spread it around different markets, and just doesn't work, because this cultural aspect is very important. We very often do also like account-based marketing, where we would like send things to people, or like just kind of different ways. For example, in Malaysia, that's frowned upon. It's considered a bribe. So all those little things that could add up to kind of overall knowledge sharing are very important. And just to finish, because I know we're short on time. Overall, this is how we look at our market expansion at Profitroom. So we divide all the markets into 4 different phases. One of them is discovery, where we actually, do the market research and kind of analyze the competition and product market fit. Then there's incubation, where we're trying to get our first customers, build the brand. Then there's scaling, where we just put the pedal to the metal and actually go full on into like client acquisition. And then at the end, we have the retention. So some of the markets where we just really focus on a client retention and upselling. And we always put all the markets on this kind of graph and communicate it to the company, so everybody knows what they have to focus on. So maybe if you're in a product team, you have to focus on market X and Y, because that's discovery. But maybe if you're customer success, you have to actually look at those markets that are in the retention phase, because you don't want to risk churn, etc. And we look at it from the market perspective, but also client segments now. So some of the clients, for example, smaller and medium hotels, can be in a scaling phase, whereas if we're going enterprise, we may be just incubating that right now. So just kind of like making sure everybody is on the same page, where you are in each market, and how they can contribute to each market. It's very important, because then we actually have everybody aligned and kind of going in the same direction, no? And that's it from me. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Anna, that was fantastic. I have a ton of questions, and I figure I can seed the questions to start, and then as everyone else comes up with their questions, we'll definitely share those. But maybe one thing, starting where you just ended off on the life cycle of a market. You touched on this just a little bit about people being aligned, and this is a big global class thing. Is if you really want to get scale and parallelization and doing multiple markets at once, you know, it's a different approach than if you did one at a time. And to get to 50 markets, you know, let's say each one takes a year, that would have taken you 50 years to do, which you didn't do. You guys have done that in less. So how do these markets relate to each other? How did you take that type of planning life cycle and you know, allow for the markets to contribute to each other or help accelerate different parts of those stages?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few things. You can obviously put some markets in clusters, you know, so you would, I don't know, if you look at the Nordics, there's a few countries there. There's Sweden, there's Norway, there's Finland. You can get Estonia, Lithuania, etc. So you can cluster them and kind of treat them at the same time in the same way. We actually are very conscious about just working on a few markets at a time as a strategic markets where we want to have go-to-market teams on the ground. And then there's quite a few markets where we do in a way that we like kind of sell to them from HQ, so to speak, like centrally. So that investment is a little bit less heavy, let's say. We also try to find customers within the markets that actually don't require so much customization of the product. And because usually if we right now are at the point where we serve, I think 7 or 8 languages, it opens up a lot of markets for us. Asia can be served in English, you know, Middle East can be served in English, Spanish is all the entire Latin America and Spain. So kind of thinking about how you can use what you got to get to more markets at the same time. And then in terms of kind of the knowledge sharing, it's for us, we actually just have sales and marketing separated into different regions, but all the other functions we actually keep centrally, just because they can pick up on common trends from different markets and put them together. So it speeds up a lot of things.
Awesome. Also, one comment on a comment you made earlier about how Profitroom really was designed for the Polish market. That's a pretty typical thing, especially if you come from a bigger market. I mean, you know, Poland's almost 40 million people, right? So
yeah,
it's natural because you want to get product market fit there. You know, but sometimes it's hard to build it while thinking of other markets in mind. But that's what we're wanting to encourage companies to do. But before I open it up to everyone else, there's one other question I wanted to just talk a little bit about that you had mentioned something about earlier, is this notion of milestones. And so when you're implementing growing in a market, we at Global Class believe in the importance of the milestones being sort of a pivot point and how it sort of matches early on in the life of a startup where when you're just starting a company, you're not thinking about profitability and revenue. You're thinking about like, who are our customers and how do we make money and all of these more qualitative things. And you mentioned as an example, a big milestone was around getting that lighthouse customer in a market. What are maybe some of the other milestones that are those incremental steps that are important foundations to eventually get product market fit in a new market?
So I guess we're looking at it from different angles. So one of them is obviously kind of we're measuring a lot of things. So we're measuring like how many visitors from the country we have on our website now as a beginning, how many people are entering our landing pages for particular topics now, how many leads are we getting, how many people are attending our webinars and our events, you know, like are we able to create that excitement in the market where people actually want to join us on those events, because we very focused on events. They've been working for us very well. And then like, obviously then from the product kind of client acquisition, if we want to get clients, how much unlocking do we have to do? Is this something that every client is different and we have to customize something in a product in order to sign them? Or actually, this is just little tweaks or education that, hey, things can be done differently. So how about we look at it this way? I know you've been doing it this way, but there's a different way, you know? So or are those just completely blocking us and we actually have to change the product, no? So these are one of the things we're looking at after like having 10, 20, 30 deals. Where are we with that, no? And then obviously, how quickly can we become profitable? Because we actually have business plans for and very, very detailed calculations of the cost of acquisitions versus ARR we're getting, etc. And we're trying to really see how quickly can we break even, because maybe, you know, something we misfired and we actually don't really want to be in this market because it's going to take us way too long to get to profitability. whereas there's a market next door, that's actually much easier. So, we kind of constantly monitoring CAC to revenue and seeing where should we put more money and we should put less money.